Welcome to episode 23 of the Dare to Dream podcast. We are grateful for you tuning in. Grateful for my man Greg. How we doing? How we doing, brother?
We are doing great today. It's Thursday evening. It's been a great week, and we're excited to bring you guys a different special episode this time.
Different and special. It's going to be a lot of fun because one of our best friends actually sent in a topic that he wants us to discuss. And it really, I think it just kind of encapsulates like everything that we are focused on the Dare to Dream podcast and just what we're going through in our personal journeys. We'll read the question here, but we'll get right into it.
And it really couldn't have come at a better time because it's around something that Vinny and I have both been dealing with lately. And so the topic that he wanted us to talk about is something that he calls a life ultimatum.
Mm-hmm.
And how he defines a life ultimatum is a demand we put on ourselves to be a certain person or have specific things, like a family or a house, at a defined time in your life. Say when you turn 30, you need to have this and this and this. And he differentiates life ultimatum from a goal by saying that an ultimatum feels like it's something that's being imposed onto you by some external force, whether it's friends or family, society. And a goal is a conscious decision to achieve something, and a goal has a more positive connotation. And he believes that we do in fact have control over these life ultimatums, and that it's an illusion that we do not. And so I think where we want to take this in the beginning is just exploring this concept of these life ultimatums, these external pressures that we put on ourselves to be in a certain place in a certain time, to have a certain car or job title or have a family at a certain age just because other people do.
Exactly.
And Vinny, where's a life ultimatum showing up for you?
Yeah, so basically, like what caught my attention there is what he said. Like we put pressure on ourselves to get these things at certain times, but like there's so much that it's societal pressures. It's like we are expected to do these things and be a certain way and achieve, these items on our to-do list of life by certain times. But we don't. Some of us do, but we don't question enough why we're actually striving for these things and what they mean to us personally and if they even matter. Like what I'm just realizing and what's been really my goal and for the last couple of years, just since graduating from college, you graduate and you're kind of just thrown into the open ocean and it's like, all right, where do I even start swimming? Like what do I want to do with my life? So I studied journalism and I learned basically in journalism that I didn't like journalism.
Yeah, I remember you telling me that.
Yeah, 4 years. I was like, okay, definitely don't want to get into news reporting, like work for a big media company or anything, because I just wasn't really writing about like things that really fire me up. And so I was just like, after college, I just didn't know really which way to turn. And so that's when I started just writing about that experience. And I'm so beyond grateful. Like it's still is surreal that writing is something that I feel is my genuine passion and my love. And just because there's many reasons, but just because it helps me to decipher like exactly what we're talking about. Like, are these societal pressures what I actually want to do with my life? Like have a stable career and have a house by the time I'm 30, and like, do I want these things? Like, what do I actually want to do with my life? What do I even want to do today? Is it making me the type of person that that I want to be? So basically, back to your question of where it is showing up in my life. Maybe just for the last few years out of college, I was looking for a job because obviously that's what you do. It's like the first step after school or during school as well. But it's like what career could I even get into if I felt like I didn't love journalism? So where do I even begin? I was kind of just trying different things and realizing that basically discovering what I don't like, which is very helpful. That's a great place to start. I realized I don't love sales. It's just not really I'm not passionate about it. And obviously it's a great skill. And, if you're good at it, if you love it, go for it. But just didn't align with me personally. And then pandemic happened, and I'm so fortunate that I kind of realized that this is a great opportunity to actually give writing. Where like I was kind of on the borderline at that point of like, do I really want to go fully into this? And I'm like, yes, all right, this is the time to do it. When else, you know? The world is like, nothing makes sense anymore, as if it did before. But like, you know, at least we had like some stepping stones just of, but I mean, this gets back to the stepping stones are what society deems, you know, important and the next steps you're supposed to take. So pandemic was like, all right, if the door is blown wide open, let's do what actually might make me happy and like what is gonna fulfill me. So I just think, you know, I was writing about today that I feel for the first time in like my mid-20s that I'm confidently moving in a direction that I'm like proud of and I'm truly excited about. And like when I wake up every day and I'm excited to continue working on like a project or just write about what I'm experiencing, then I know I'm at least in something right. And so grateful for that. And, you know, I think today we're going to be deciphering how to help others find that same thing.
Absolutely. Waking up and being excited about what you're doing is just such a game changer. I am experiencing that for the first time since college, since I really graduated and was figuring out what I wanted to do. There's a question in there that I'm trying to figure out how to phrase, but essentially you went through journalism and you didn't like it, but then you almost used that background, that writing background, to figure out what you really were passionate about, which is writing about things that excite you. And I had a similar experience, not with what I studied, but I spent probably the 3 years after college, like aggressively looking for my purpose and trying to figure out what I was so passionate about. And I was reading every book I could get my hands on. I was listening to every podcast I could possibly find, doing all of this personal development work to find out what I was passionate about. And then I realized that what I was passionate about was personal development. So it's like almost the thing that I loved was right there in front of me the whole time. And that's kind of what I'm seeing with you for journalism, but it just wasn't oriented the right way. Like there was something off about it and you just had to have a little shift and then it kind of fell into place.
100%. And like it's like it's surreal to me, like how it 100% I believe it all happened for a reason. Like I didn't even study journalism. I didn't write one like article or anything in high school. I was like, oh, I'll study journalism for 4 years.
Why not?
Yeah, and then like it, you know, I definitely learned how to write decently well. I think decently good.
I'd say so.
And I mean, so that's just, I believe like everything does happen for a reason, and there is something to be learned in every step of the journey. And so like, yeah, it is maybe just kind of changing your perspective of what you're going through. Like what was it for you that like, what was the straw that kind of pushed you over and made you realize that like, wait, I don't love like striving to find what I'm passionate about. Like the actual growth process is what I'm passionate about.
It's a great question. I think I just got to the point where I had exhausted every other avenue that I was looking for. And I just really, I think it actually came, now I'm remembering, it was more of just when I sat down and looked at where do I enjoy spending my time and where do I come alive? Mm-hmm. Like when are the times when I just almost act like someone else because I'm so excited, like my voice gets excited, I just can't wait to tell someone about it. And I was like, oh, it's when I'm learning about something new, this new like super weird experiment habit that I'm going to implement, or it's like when I'm on my routine and everything's structured and I'm like doing really well, getting 1% better every day. It's just that like personal growth. There's so many times I go throughout the day and I just feel like I have new exciting things to tell people and I can't even think about what they are, but it's just because like I'm constantly learning and trying to improve myself and evolve into like the next version of me. And just that whole process, like I think it was really also when people started asking me for like tips on, you know, what should I do to wake up earlier? How can I go to bed earlier? Or how do I start meditating? Like stuff like that. I think it was really when I started becoming a guide or someone that people would ask advice of that I was like, it started feeling really right. And just that role of being able to be there for someone who's trying to make an improvement and just share whatever I know is just such a cool feeling.
Yeah, man, it's amazing. Like, so lucky to have you as a friend to be able to go to you for these kind of things. But like the coolest thing is, it's like we're experiencing this growth together. Like last week, we both, it's just like we're in sync with these just experiences. I mean, we're
Completely.
together almost every day, but that's besides the point. It's like we both. So I guess we could kind of jump into this side topic, but we both kind of felt overwhelmed last week. Like we started this new mental discomfort thing that has us kind of just changing up our lifestyle, and we had a lot on the plate, and we both had just like these mini, just kind of not breakdowns, but just
Breakthroughs.
breakthroughs. Yes, great way to look at it, because it was breakthrough for sure. Of all right, I'm clearly taking on too much, and I'm trying to just do too much right now, and now is the time to pull back.
I think that's a life ultimatum that I was experiencing last week, and I had to shift my paradigm. Is the ultimatum was I need to start multiple companies at once. I need to scale. I need to monetize. I need to optimize. I need to
Big
do all
words.
these things.
Yeah.
Just throwing business buzzwords left and right.
Yeah.
It was like I felt like I needed to be the next 20. I almost said I'm 24. I'm 26. The next 26-year-old young CEO entrepreneur.
If I may, sorry to interrupt, but
Please,
this quote just absolutely nails this.
Come on in.
So I wrote an article about a month ago called "Find What Makes You Come Alive Before Thinking About Success," and so Jay Shetty is like one of my greatest inspirations. He's just a legend. His book "Think Like a Monk." I think we've talked about it once or twice.
Once or twice.
Because we are aspiring monks. But he has this one quote from the book that goes like this. One of our biggest challenges in today's world is the pressure to perform big right now. Many of us feel that if we haven't found our calling and risen to the top of our fields in our 20s, we failed. Putting all of this pressure on people to achieve early is not only stressful, it could actually hinder success. According to Forbes magazine publisher Rich Karlgaard, in his book Late Bloomers, the majority of us don't hit our stride quite so early on. But society's focus on academic testing, getting into the right colleges, and developing and selling an app for millions before you even get a degree.
Yes, that speaks exactly to what I was talking about. And I just want to applaud you on interrupting me to read your article.
So stop talking. I'm going to read my article.
I'm going to read something I read. No, that's fantastic. I love that quote. You've definitely told me that before. It's an ultimatum. It's this pressure. And what our buddy was really wondering is, where does this pressure come from? And that brings up a point that I want to talk about. I'm going to talk about my own writing.
It is.
I wrote this article a while ago. It was more of a concept. It's actually what I wanted to name the podcast, is Disassembly
Greg
Required.
Benedict.
The Greg Benedict
podcast.
It's this concept I thought of called disassembly required. I feel like we go through, so first of all, like we're raised by our parents and they do a phenomenal job most of the time. And at least
debatable.
We came from great families. But you're put together by your parents and society and your friends at school and then at college, and like each year goes by and like another piece of you is installed. And I think when you graduate college, it's really a time to take yourself apart and ask yourself, do I want these things? Is this thing that I supposedly want actually important to me? And really look inside, because maybe somewhere along the way, some part of you was installed backwards or upside down.
Or by somebody else.
Which
is mostly.
Yeah, and so you really need to take yourself apart. You need to disassemble yourself to figure out what it is that you truly want, because if you don't, I think that's where we see all of these external pressures coming from. It's the random want to drive a BMW even if you don't care about cars, or it's like you said, you need to have a house by 30. And that was actually one I was thinking about the other day. Like, I am very far away from buying a house, and I'm super happy about that. For me, taking a mortgage and like settling in one spot for an extended period of time is my worst nightmare right now. Like, I'm really enjoying this freedom to live where I want to live and just have the potential at least to pick up and move if I want to.
Oh yeah, I think you know my stance on that at the moment. I'm trying to move around as just experiencing the world. That's like what I want to do more than anything right now. Just obsessed with learning and growing by new experiences. And yeah, man, I think just like I love I love that idea. The assembly required. I think we could have gone with that. But I think it just sounded a little too engineer focused.
Yeah,
But
definitely.
anyways, dude,
I'm not bitter about it.
yeah, only a little bit. Cry every night. But yeah, it's like many like we're first of all just starting with college is we're forced to decide on a major when we were high schoolers and we have no idea what we want to do with our lives.
Insane.
And then like at school like Cal Poly, which is a such an amazing experience, but they just made it impossible to switch majors. And I'm grateful for that because it made me stick with journalism. But you should be able to like explore just what interests you, and I get you can do that with classes, but like you are put into a system that makes you become a cog in a machine. That's what you're training to do. And how can we just become more instead of remember it like being forced to remember things just to pass a test, just to get a good job, just to start a family. It's like, wait, do I even want any of this right now? Maybe not. And it's just how can we become more curiosity driven, where we follow our curiosity and we follow experiences and actually learn how to be able to think for ourselves and when we leave school and enter society. That's when the real learning started for me.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I was going to say academically, but I think just life as well. Obviously, we learn different things in college, and I think the best part about college was just learning how to make friends and like be a part of a society, like a age group of, I guess slightly diverse people at Cal Poly, but just learn how to, mingle and like figure out what kind of person you are, or even just start doing that. So I wanted to read a quote by Yuval Noah Harari, one of my favorite authors. Some of his books, 'Sapiens, Homo Deus, and 21 Lessons for the 21st Century. And they just basically decipher humankind since the very beginning and where, all of meaning comes from, which is like really what the topic is today. So he says, each and every one of us has been born into a given historical reality, ruled by particular norms and values, and managed by a unique economic and political system. We take this reality for granted, thinking it is natural, inevitable, and immutable. We forget that our world was created by an accidental chain of events, that history shaped not only our technology, politicals, and society, but also our thoughts, fears, and dreams. The cold hand of the past emerges from the grave of our ancestors, grips us by the neck, and directs our gaze towards a single future. We have felt that grip from the moment we were born, so we assume that it is a natural and inescapable part of who we are. That was actually not the exact quote I want to read, but it definitely fits in. This is the quote. Meaning is created when when many people weave together a common network of stories. Why does a particular action, such as getting married in church, fasting on Ramadan, or voting on election day, seem meaningful to me? Because my parents also think it is meaningful, as do my brothers, my neighbors, people in nearby cities, and even the residents of far-off countries. People constantly enforce each other's beliefs in a self-perpetuating loop. Each round of mutual confirmation tightens the web of meaning further, till you have little choice but to believe what everybody else believes. Yet over decades and centuries, the web of meaning unravels and a new web is spun in its place. To study history means to watch the spinning and unraveling of these webs, and to realize that what seems to people in one age the most important thing in life becomes utterly meaningless to their descendants. So I think that one just, speaks to we've had these institutions and kind of established webs of meaning. You go to school to get a degree, to get a job, just kind of instilled in us, and they're, in a sense, antiquated, like, 20th century ideas of becoming part of the system that contributes to society, which obviously is important, but think you get what I'm saying there.
Yeah, and I mean, I think about this a lot because I really like reading books about World War II. It makes sense to me why that was the way things were. Like, you go fight in World War One or World War Two, you come back and you can sit inside in a corporation, have a safe, secure job, make enough money to feed your family, have some nice things, live a nice, peaceful life.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds ideal. Like, we are just in such a different time period that, I mean, we've never seen. This is like the longest amount of world peace ever. And a lot of people label millennials as ungrateful and that they're not appreciating how good we have it. But I'm kind of seeing it from the lens of we have this opportunity here.
Yeah.
For the first time in human history, we're not killing each other by the millions, and things are pretty good. And so let's see how great we can make things. We have this opportunity to pursue more than just filling those like two bottom tiers on the hierarchy of needs.
Exactly.
We can aim more towards the top of self-actualization and finding what it really means to be the best version of yourself and help others and do all of those things.
100%. Yeah, it's a privilege to first of all, you have to appreciate exactly what you're saying. We have to appreciate that we can just be able to not think about war, plague, or famine. That's in Homo Deus. It just talks about this is the first time in history, like you're just saying, that we haven't had to worry about those things. And now we could, what are we going to focus on next? Actually becoming happy. And it's almost a luxury. Well, it is a luxury. We have time to think about what can I actually do to be happy instead of just trying to feed ourselves from our day in, first world countries and developed parts of the world. And so first of all, realize what a privilege that is. Obviously, I just thank the universe that I have a roof over my head every night. Before I go to bed, I'm lying in a bed. That is just such a blessing. I have a roof over my head. I could get anything I want for dinner. It is an incredible time to be the best time to be alive in all of human history. But that doesn't mean we can't start thinking about what is actually going to make me happy instead of just playing by an ancient playbook. So, yeah, I think, start thinking about what it kind of means to us what I've been trying to do is just kind of incorporating both those aspects of my life by taking the pressure off as best as I can, which is not easy of trying to constantly okay, you have this opportunity, you don't waste it.
Yeah.
But also being it's okay to just relax and kind of take your foot off the pedal and just kind of be. And because it is a blessing just to be able to not think about war and not I don't have to sign up for a draft and have food and appreciate that. That's an amazing part of life. But also realizing that without something to strive towards that really comes from within, it kind of starts just drifting and life can get aimless that way.
Yeah, and I think so. That was one of the other questions that our buddy raised is, what is the appropriate amount of pressure to put on yourself to achieve things? And this was from the podcast you sent me with Chris Williams and Jordan Peterson, is put a lot of pressure on yourself and see what you are capable of. See how much of a load you can bear, and then you'll reach a point where you overwhelm yourself. The wheels fall off a little bit. You have a mini breakdown. You need the breakdown to break through. And you'll realize, okay, that was too much. I need to reel it back a little bit. Let's reevaluate. I'm only going to do these things now. And then you move forward again and you try it again, maybe in a slightly different way. And it's a constant, at least for me, it's a constant take on things, kind of implode, break down, learn, and then try it again. But I always start from a new higher spot, or I feel like my foundation gets more sturdy every time. Every time I have a breakdown, it's lovely.
Definitely. No, yeah. I mean, we every weekend, if we diverge, we're just doing different things. And we come back on Monday, oh man, broke down over the weekend, and we talk about it. It's and so that week was clearly, we both took on a lot, just personal stuff. And then next week, this week, just having a great week because I'd learned what was a little bit too much, and learned to pull it back and kind of get back to my roots. My roots being just what I've discovered that I truly love to do in the last couple of years.
Yeah, and what's so interesting too is it's not even huge lifestyle changes you need to make. Sometimes you just need to shift your expectations. That's what it was for me. My week this week looks pretty identical to my week last week, but this week has been awesome and last week sucked because this week, over the weekend in between them, I turned down the dial a lot on certain things. I realized that given everything I'm doing with the nonprofit, I'm not going to be able to devote many hours to this podcast every week. We're not going to have the time to market and scale like we want to eventually. There's a couple other areas of my life that it was almost subconscious. I had this expectation that I needed to be spending 5 hours on this and 5 hours on that, and just confronting those and just really shining a light and being like, okay, why do I think this? Is this reasonable? No. Okay, we're going to get rid of that. And that helped me so much. And I think that's kind of the way that we can battle or disable these life ultimatums is you have to be willing to confront them and really just approach them head on and shine a light into why do I feel this way? What is making me feel this way? Where is this coming from?
Mm-hmm.
And then you'll realize that it's either antiquated opinions from other people or from an old time in your life, and it's probably not serving you anymore. And then it's really clearing it out, getting it out of there.
100%. So yeah, I think for me, honestly, a big just kind of realization, and not a wake-up call, but just something that encouraged me and continues to encourage me, is just realizing that everything we're doing, we're playing the infinite game here. And it's so last week we both had this kind of got overwhelmed with everything we were doing because you had all these ideas, I need to do this and this and this for the business. I was like, all right, I need to blow up my I just need to start pumping out content.
Pump it out. We need to scale.
I need to scale this thing. I need to be the next billionaire in my 20s. So I was just putting this pressure on myself to just do too much. And I got overwhelmed with the different social media outlets, which is like posting on the different ones. And I was like, all right. So after the weekend, realized it's playing the infinite game. I'm not gonna. It's you were saying on I think last week's podcast is there's no such thing. I don't know if you said this, but there's no such thing as an overnight success. It's an overnight success is when somebody finally is discovered after doing the work for 10 years, and then somebody stumbles upon the work that they actually enjoy doing.
That sounds really wise. So I think I must have said it.
Yes, it's a wise soul. But this is an infinite game, and to not burn out, and like you're saying from the Jordan Peterson, what he was talking about in the podcast, it's so you create that threshold where it's all right, this is how much I think I could take on, and you test it out. So that's what I did last week, and I even over the weekend I just didn't have a second, and I'm okay, I'm not happy doing this, and I'm not enjoying what I previously enjoyed, so I'm gonna take a step back, reassess. And so it's kind of like a sound bar where it's the sound is pushing into the red zone.
Yeah.
And then it's okay, let's bring it down a little bit, back into the green, just, tip of the green. And realizing that if I'm going to do this sustainably for the rest of my life, anything it is, your career, a relationship, something that makes you happy, you don't have to do it all in one day. But consistency over the long term is much more important and effective than just trying to do too much at once. And when I realized that, it's I just have to do a little bit every day and make sure it's continuing to make me happy, and just take the pressure off yourself, I think, is the biggest thing. And that changed everything for me. I need to have the time to do nothing, and because when I'm doing nothing, it's I'm recharging, just taking a walk and not having to think about things and not having to rush back. And you need that time to think, and that means getting away from the noise and things that are distracting. It's you need time to actually think about what it is you want to do, how things are kind of affecting you, and ask yourself these kind of questions.
Yeah, and time to think and time to play. It's very easy for me to budget my week or schedule my week back to back to back to back with things. And then when I do have downtime, I'll throw headphones in and I'll listen to a podcast, or I'll do something. I'll make a call that I needed to call my friends or someone. But you need that quiet time, that unstructured time to play and just do nothing. I mean, that's literally how our brain and our motor capabilities develop as kids. Like unstructured, free, unsupervised play is so essential to us as humans. It's how our brain develops. It's how we develop a risk tolerance to, okay, what is too high to climb in this tree? Like spatial awareness, all of that is developed from play. And you don't just stop that when you get older. I mean, most people do. And I've fallen into this category so many times, but it's often in those moments where you're just sitting quietly or on a walk or doing something where you have those big ideas and you hear it, you hear those inspirational ideas always come in the shower, that kind of thing. But it's so true. You have to make time for that. And that is for sure something I struggle with. What have been, so because from my perspective, looking outside, looking in, I feel like you are better at that than I am. So what would your advice to me be on how to do that better?
I wanted to ask this for a long time. Well, I mean, I appreciate that. I don't know if I appreciate, if it's a compliment, because I think we're on the same page with that, but I do appreciate it. And I think it's like I've had this realization that it's something that I've been just thinking about a lot, is the more I'm realizing what really makes me happy is the more I'm like getting in touch with my inner kid. And that has been like a huge just weight off my shoulders, because I think there's a big difference between like maturing and forgetting what it means to be a kid. You know what I mean? It's like that quote you were talking about earlier, Maya Angelou. It's like we grow up, and that doesn't mean you're maturing. First of all, like growing up doesn't mean you're maturing. And also, remembering who you were as a kid and getting in touch with your inner kid does not mean you're immature. And I think that's a huge difference. Like maturity is taking responsibility, treating people with respect, and learning how to kind of think for yourself. And I think it all comes down to respect and kind of treating people. It's learning how to treat people. But getting in touch with the inner kid means remembering what it means to play, So back to your question, what do I do to foster that kind of inner kid? Honestly, like writing is a great way for me to do that. Like last week, I think I kind of got overwhelmed because I was writing stuff that it's like about building my personal brand. I wrote a story about that, and then like I kind of said a big story about who I am, which is like definitely enjoyable. It takes a lot of introspection and work, I guess, but I just love the kind of stories where like I just write about going outside, like going on a hike, or like what I discovered, and getting back in touch with nature. Like, that has been such an important thing for me since there's like in the last couple of years that maybe I think it was something that's always been a part of my life, but like I just, not that I didn't accept it, but I've just overly accepted it at this point. Like it's just given me the greatest inspiration and like just freedom and creativity. It's like just constantly being inspired by nature. But I think it's getting in touch with like your inner kid, is thinking about like what, like you were saying earlier, what kind of makes you come alive, like that you're talking about, and you kind of just lose track of time, and what makes you just joyful and happy, and are you creating enough space to realizing what that is? Like sometimes, I don't know, we get too caught up in our structures and having to feel this. I know it's more maybe difficult with you, but you feel like you are your best version of yourself when you're like strictly to your structure and you got your whole routine. But maybe it is worth trying to break that every once in a while and just trying new things and seeing how you do, react to it. And Um, yeah, I mean, I think it's just thinking about what is it. Am I doing the kind of things that I'm doing because it's what I'm supposed to be doing? As in, am I doing these things because like it's what this web of meaning that's been spun that's told me this is the right thing to do? Like I feel like there's like an hourglass. It's like we all feel like they were just watching. And it's like, all right, I have to have a house by this time, or else like I'm not successful. It's like what does that mean to you? Why is a house important to you? Why is a relationship important to you? Why is a job important to you? Like, really think about that. Like, think about it hard.
Yeah, long and
Think
hard.
about it long and hard.
Just it's so true. It's like, what is the point? What are you actually aiming at? So are you starting the company? I mean, almost I think everything boils down to we're aiming at, we want to be happy and joyful and feel significant, find love. And that reminds me of a Jordan Peterson quote, that it's better to journey happily. It may be better to have journey. It may be better to journey happily than to arrive successfully, because if you aren't happy along the way, maybe you get to that end success point and you just look around and you don't even like what you see. And that's what I'm grappling with, is what is the correct level of current enjoyment and current fun, and what is the correct level of sacrificing the present moment for a better future.
Yeah, I think it's maybe a way to approach it is like figuring out, and this is a Jordan Peterson idea, but having something to aim at. Because without anything to aim at, you're just firing aimlessly. And something like if you don't know what it is for you, just try different things and see what kind of. It's like, okay, I might like this a little bit. I'm gonna keep it going for a bit, but if I don't like it, I get it's tough to grapple with, because it's like, if I don't like it, does that mean I should just give it up? Does that mean it doesn't fit with me, or like will I learn to like it? So it's really being aware of your own thoughts like surrounding these things, and
Being aware of what you want. That kind of put something together for me in my own mind of, I think a lot of these life ultimatums will fall away and be less important if you figure out what it is you're actually aiming at.
yeah,
Because say what you want to aim at is financial independence or financial freedom. So many things are going to fall away, like having to drive a really nice car or having to wear a certain type of clothes, because all that you care about is probably cutting expenses, increasing your income, saving money. Maybe going out to fancy restaurants falls away because you're just, again, trying to save money and like retire early. And so depending on where you aim at, what you're aiming at, and where you want to go, that's really what you can figure out what's important to you. And then all of those other expectations that are just kind of the general successful people things will probably not mean as much to you.
right, 100%. Yeah, that reminds me of, I mean, just how to find that thing to aim at. When I was a real estate agent, a couple years ago, watched a video from Tom Ferry, who's like the best, not the best, the most famous real estate coach in the country, and he was asking these same things, like, what can I do to, well, I guess it's kind of different. He was saying, what can I do to be successful right now? He's a young man, and he asked his mentor that, and he came back and said, instead of asking, what can I do to be successful right now, ask, what can I do to be the kind of person worthy of that success? I think that changed my whole perspective of, that just blew my mind. It's like, first of all, you have to realize or even start to understand what success means to you. And it just kind of reshaped everything for me, because instead of striving for like these material things, money, power, kind of generic terms, but it's like, what kind of person do I actually want to become in the future? And that is something to aim at for sure. If you're aiming at that, you're gonna figure it out. If you're aiming at, I want to be a noble person who treats others with respect no matter who they are, how can I work on that every single day? If I want to help people heal and just bring light into people's life, that's what I'm going to aim at. And I'm going to work at that every day. No matter what happens, that's going to be my goal. And you'll try different jobs and, I mean, see what works for you. But how do you become the type of person that is even worthy of success? Because I've met a lot of extremely wealthy people who are not happy.
Yeah.
Like it's been like such a learning experience in my life. I'm so grateful for that I've seen like money does not equal happiness. When I realized that, it kind of changed everything for me. Because now it's like, I'm not making practically any money from writing, more than I was before, but it's like I don't care at this point. I'm making enough to survive. It's like I'm actually doing something that I feel happy about and that I feel like I'm contributing like who I am and just developing who I am. And I think that's like what our young lives are for.
Yeah. Oh, there's two things I want to say to that. The first is Gary Keller, who started Keller Williams, billion-dollar real estate company. He says, don't chase money and success. Figure out who you are and be that. Then money and success will chase you. And exactly to what you're saying is just focusing on you as a person, your character. And then I'm reading The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey, which is just kind of like such a foundational book for personal growth. And he talks about how there's 2 different ethics going on. And so he did research on the last 200 years of personal development, personal growth literature, and he found that the first 150 years were really solid. This is the kind of stuff that like Benjamin Franklin was talking about and writing in his journal about focusing on your character and your morals and your values and becoming just a very solid human. And that's how you become successful. And then once you master your emotions and your patience and your compassion, all of that, then everything else just kind of falls into place. But what he found is in the last 50 years, there's been a huge shift to what he calls the personality ethic. So the first 150 years was the character ethic, and now it's the personality ethic. And now a lot of the personal development content is all about the quick fix, how to get rich fast, how to level up without doing any of the work.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really interesting to see because reading this has kind of made me shift how I viewed some of the personal development stuff that I liked previously. Now I'm seeing that it's really all about the shortcut and how to do this in 3 simple steps. Like we've made jokes about that before.
I can't stand that stuff.
But I really think that could be the best answer of how to deal with these life ultimatums. How to deal with anything really is just focus on you and your character, and don't compare yourself to other people. Compare yourself to who you were yesterday.
Jordan Peterson.
But be kind to yourself. Don't be too hard on yourself.
100%.
And give yourself time to play. Give yourself some downtime. Now I'm just talking to myself. This is what I need to do. But I really like what you were saying is focus on being the best version of yourself first, and everything else will follow.
Yeah, man. Definitely. Like, it's, if you're striving for anything, like, that's got to be it. Like, how are we supposed to know, what life-changing thing we're going to create, or how are we going to know, like, what business we're going to create, or anything? How are we supposed to know what we're going to do with our life until we even know who we are? Like, how we can just change the world by being us, by simple acts of courage and individuality every day, of just being yourself and enjoying life. And I wanted to mention earlier, just taking the pressure off yourself. That's how I remain joyful. Like, it always comes back to that for me. It's like, nobody's putting this pressure on me but me. Take the pressure off that society, your parents, like, if you're fending for yourself and doing whatever you have to do, like, there should be no pressure. Much easier said than done, but like, that is something to definitely strive for, is realizing that the only thing that really matters is how you're connecting with people, how you're connecting with yourself. And first you have to connect with yourself before you can actually, have good relationships with people, and then life just becomes fun. And it honestly is. It's all just part of the journey of growth. It's like, it can be damn fun. And it is.
Yeah.
Like, I'm really seeing that. I know you are too. Just discovering and learning and growing. It's like, it is a joyful journey if you allow it to be.
There's no downside too. Like the worst thing that happens if you're focusing on improving your character is that you become a kinder, nicer, more patient, genuine person who people like to be around. Like I really don't think there's a downside to cultivating your character
Mm-hmm.
and just focusing on what you can control in the present.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so getting clear on, what type of person you want to be. Like that, there's actionable steps that you could take there of how can I do this every single day where I'm going to get to know myself better, and how do I want to be received in the world. I think a good place to maybe end it would just be the 5 questions that Tom Ferry comes away with from his mentor. Just questions to ask yourself of how to become the type of person who is worthy of success. So the first question, what is my purpose? So write this down and just ponder it often. If you just ask yourself, what is my purpose? Your mind will start presenting answers. What are my innate talents that I can build upon? It's not exactly what does society expect of me, but what are my innate talents? And that gets back to, what did you enjoy when you were a kid before society started pushing down these other things you're supposed to do down your throat? What are my values? What are my values? In 5, 10, 20 years, how is the world experiencing me? This was a big one for me because it's not like, what am I giving to the world? It's, how is a stranger walking down the street experiencing me? When they see me, what do they see? Am I somebody who brings them peace just by walking down the street? Am I kind of helping heal the world? How's the world experiencing me? Who would I be if I was already there?
Ooh,
Yes.
that's big. That's big. And one thing that the values question sparked that I just want to say, because the first question, what is my purpose? That can be intimidating and daunting for sure. I grappled with that one for a long time. But for the values one, this is actually, this is really cool. This is an exercise that we have our students at Epoch Academy go through. It's a values exercise. And we have them choose their top 10 values, and then they narrow it down to 5. And so you get your 5 values. Maybe it's courage, honesty, compassion, etc., etc. And then you just write down, what is one action that you can take tomorrow to live in alignment with that value. So if it's honesty, you could write down, okay, tomorrow I'm not going to tell any lies. Like, I'm not going to tell any white lies. I'm not going to tell any half-truths. Just, that's like a really easy way to start living in alignment with your values and to start taking action to become more genuine.
Yeah, definitely. I think we whittled it down a bit to become the type of person who you want to be in the future. Who's even worthy of success, and whatever success means to you. Just start thinking about what type of person you want to be, and that's what it's all about. Like, for you people the same age as us, 20s, 30s, flip the hourglass back over, because there's time. You have time to just sit and think. You have time. Don't feel the rush that just because other people are in a rush.
Yeah. I think that's going to do it for us. Thanks for tuning in.
That's right. Love y'all. Love you.
Love
we'll
you.
See you next week.